Welcome and thanks for joining us. Colonel Duffy and I are here today to talk to you about the stand-up of the Air Force Installation and Mission Support Center, how it impacts you, and how we will work together to continue delivering civil engineer capabilities to our Air Force and joint mission partners. The question that Chief Master Sergeant Lewis and I get asked most often when we travel is, how does this change impact the wings? The answer to that is, right now, it doesn't. For the near future, our wing structure remains intact, and AFCEC and the squadron capabilities also remain intact. Civil engineers may coordinate with personnel in different offices in their day-to-day work, but that work itself will not change.
Engineers, hello from our nation's capital. As Brigadier General Green said, I'm Col Brian Duffy, and I'm currently serving as the Vice Commander of the Air Force Installation and Mission Support Center Provisional at Joint Base Andrews. Having recently departed command of Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in the 673rd Air Base Wing this past July, I come at this new challenge for our Air Force with both a recent commander's and a fresh base level perspective. So what are we doing right now? Our provisional staff consists of just over 60 people, most of which are on long-term TDY from MAJCOM locations and from the former FOAs and DRUs that transitioned to the Air Force IMSC on 1 October. As a reminder, these include the Air Force Civil Engineer Center, Air Force Financial Services Center, Air Force Installation Contracting Agency, Air Force Security Forces Agency, and the Air Force Personnel Center's former Services Directorate, now the AFIMSC Services Directorate, and the SAF-FM Center of Expertise. Our provisional staff is focused on four main tasks: writing the Program Action Directive, or PAD, writing the associated P-Plan, standing up initial processes and procedures to allow us to operate as a center, and looking forward, taking necessary action to bed down the center's permanent headquarters at a location yet to be determined.
Standing up the Provisional AFIMSC is a big step towards answering Secretary Hagel's call to reduce headquarters management costs by 20%. As the center matures, it will also allow our Air Force to eliminate redundant activities, identify efficiencies, mitigate risks, and better maintain mission-effective service for our customers across the installation and mission support portfolio.
So here's what you can expect to come next for the Air Force IMSC. The Secretary recently approved the basing criteria that the Air Force will use to select candidate bases for the Air Force IMSC permanent headquarters from an initial list of 10 locations. These include all CONUS-based MAJCOM's headquarters installations, CONUS locations with one of our 6 new principal subordinate units that has 50 or more manpower authorizations, and it also includes the National Capital Region. Using our strategic basing process, the Air Force will evaluate the 10 installations against an approved set of criteria, including mission, capacity, environmental, and cost factors, with the goal of identifying the candidate bases later in the fall of 2014. Site survey teams will assess these candidate bases with the goal of announcing preferred and reasonable alternatives and beginning the environmental impact analysis process in early 2015. Once established, our permanent Air Force IMSC headquarters will be a lean organization of 350 people, delivering on more than 100 capabilities which today's MAJCOMs and DRUs provide with more than 900 people. Our plan is to organize the center in 4 major categories: a special staff, just like what you see in a typical wing staff agency grouping, a resources directorate focused on funding, manpower, plans and programs, and with an operations research function capable of reviewing and analyzing our processes and continually improving, an installation support directorate focused on all things required to make our installations work day to day, and an expeditionary support directorate ensuring our agile combat support airmen are organized, trained, and equipped to answer our nation's call whenever and wherever necessary. Our Air Force IMSC will also include detachments at each MAJCOM location, chartered to provide effective, responsive installation and expeditionary support to MAJCOMs and their installations. These detachments, similar to those already in place for the Air Force Installation Contracting Agency and the AFIMSC Services Directorate, serve the purpose of providing capabilities deemed most appropriate to be done co-located with a MAJCOM, but not necessarily by a person wearing that MAJCOM patch. I'm proud to serve with you, and with your help, look forward to leading the way for our Air Force as we take on this new way of delivering support to our installations, the very foundation of our ability to project air, space, and cyberspace power.
As a reminder, at base level, there is no change to the current chain of command. Squadrons in the mission support business remain aligned with groups and wings just as they are now, and that will not change. In FY15, funding for installation and mission support matters will continue to flow through our major commands. However, beginning on 1 October 15, the start of fiscal year 2016, This funding flow will change.
The Air Force IMSC will have a separate command ID code and organizational account code. In essence, a dedicated and visible line of funding which the Air Force will use to issue funds through Air Force Materiel Command to the Air Force IMSC and then on to our Air Force installations. The Air Force IMSC will have the ability to look across the entire installation and mission support portfolio and, consistent with Air Force priorities, ensure funding goes to the most critical requirements. In a time of dwindling resources, that enterprise-wide look will be key to our success. Thanks again for everything you're doing to support the missions and people of our great Air Force, and I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Over the next few months, expect more messages to come as we go into greater detail on the impacts of restructuring on our MAJCOMs and FOAs, force development, and expeditionary operations. Please send us your questions so that we can share information most valuable to you. Thanks for your time today and for your service, for what you do each and every day for our Air Force.